Hey guys, it's Miss Nebaker. And today we are going to be talking about the volume of cones. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to write down our formula. So our formula is volume equals 1/3 pi r squared times height, or you could write it as pi r squared times height divided by 3. Either way works. Hopefully you watched the video yesterday and you learned the relationship between the cones, the cylinders, and the circles. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to figure out the volume of each of these cones. So we're going to do a little checklist off to the side. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to figure out what is our radius or diameter. And remember, if it's a diameter, we definitely want to cut this in half or divide by 2. So cut in half. The next step that we want to do is we want to find our height. So what is your height? Then we're going to write our formula. With all of our measurements in the formula. So measurements. And the measurements is just the different lengths on the cones. And then the last thing that we're going to do is use parentheses to solve in calculator. Okay, so make sure that you use your parentheses in your calculator and then you'll get the answer correct. All right, so let's go back over here to number 1. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out what our radius is and our diameter. In this case, we have a diameter. So the diameter for this guy is 16. Remember, the relationship between the diameter and the radius is half. So what we need to do is we need to divide this guy by 2 to get 8, and that is our radius, 8 meters. Okay, and then the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out our height. Our height is how tall our cone is, and that goes from the base, the circle, all the way to the top, the point. Okay, so this is 16 meters. And then what we need to do is we need to write the formula with our measurements. So we are going to write V equals, remember our formula, I'm just going to use this first formula so I can put parentheses around it really easy. So our formula is 1/3 times pi times our radius, which is 8, so we put an 8 there, and it's got to be squared, times our height, which is 16. Okay, so then our next step is to use parentheses to solve in calculator. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, now what we want to do is very similar to what we did with our other shapes. We want to figure out our answer in terms of pi. So the first step is not to multiply by pi through this equation, okay? So we're just going to do this second part of it. So we have 8 squared times 16, and then we're going to also multiply that by 1/3. So you could do 1 divided by 3 or then the box part if you wanted to. Okay, so when you multiply all those numbers together, not including pi because we want our answer in terms of pi, then we get 341.33. Okay, so we're going to write that down, and we're going to round as well. So we're always round to the nearest tenth. 341.3 pi is our volume. Okay, now sometimes this doesn't look very pretty, so we write it in a fraction. So to put it in a fraction form, if you have this calculator, or most scientific calculators have this button that says F to D, you just got to find it somewhere on your calculator. On this specific calculator, you press second, and then because it's blue, so my second up here is blue, and the F to D down here is blue. So you press that, and then that will change it from a fraction to a decimal. So most calculators have this kind of button. Again, if they're scientific. And it'll change this decimal into a fraction. So I haven't pressed anything else other than I typed in my number and then pressed second answer and then FD. And then I got 1024 divided by 3. So 1024 divided by 3 is your answer written as a fraction, which is still the number that would go here. So 341.3 and 1024 divided by 3 are the same thing. So 1024 over 3 pi. So basically it just moved this cute little 3. It did 8 squared times 16 and got 1024 and then divided by 3 because it doesn't fully divide by 3. That's why we have decimal here. Anyways, so now we have the number in terms of pi. So this is our first answer. We want our answer in terms of pi, and then we want our answer as a decimal. And either of these answers work in terms of pi. This bottom one is better because it's not a decimal. And just to prove, if we did 1024 divided by 3, we would get 341.33. So they're the same thing. So if we take this number, the 341.33, and we multiply it by pi, our other answer is the 1072.3, and the reason it's 0.3 is because we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So we're going to write that down as well. So that's our second answer. So it's 1072.3. And then, oh, I forgot our units. We need our units. So our units on this guy are meters, and it's cubed because we have a volume. So we should have cube units. Okay, so that's the first one. And these go by really fast. They just take a while to explain. So, and it's the same steps every time, and it's pretty much the same steps you've been doing. You just have to divide by 3. So I'm going to do number 2 slightly different so that it's pretty much how you did the cylinders. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have to figure out our radius or our diameter. So our R for this guy is this 10. And the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out our height. So our height for this guy is 20. Remember, it goes from the base, the circle, all the way to the top of the cone. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is we have to fill in our formula. I'm going to write our formula a little bit differently so that it matches what we did with the cylinders. So basically what's happening is this guy right here. We're going to use this guy. Okay, so the top is everything we did for the cylinder, and then the bottom part, that 3, is the cone. So we're going to plug our numbers in here. So our volume equals pi times 10 squared times 20, and we're going to divide that by 3. So now we're just going to do the numbers on the top. So 10 squared is 100 times 20 is 2,000. If you're worried about your mental math, then go ahead and use your calculator. So we have a volume of pi 2,000 over 3. Okay, so Miss Lloyd and Miss Smith talked about this. We don't want to leave the pi at the beginning because it looks really funny, so we put the pi on the end. So the volume, I know that I'm creeping into the next problems, and I really apologize, is 2,000 over 3 times pi. So this is one of our answers. We can just keep it like this. You don't have to actually divide by 3 because it's going to be a decimal anyways. And this is feet cubed. So feet cubed. This is your first answer. And then the second answer is you're actually going to divide these. So in your calculator, you're going to do 2,000 divided by 3 times pi, and we get 2094.4 feet cubed. That is our second answer. So one answer in terms of pi where you leave the pi alone, and the second answer with the pi multiplied through. So I hope that you understand how to do cones now, find the volume of the cones, and you have some more that you can practice, and you can look at our answer key online if you want to check and make sure you're doing it correctly. Please let your teacher know if you have any other questions. Okay, have a great day. Bye, guys.